Hello, welcome to a God is a Geek video chat. I'm joined by Miss Nicola Adron. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Chris. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm very intrigued about what we're going to talk about because I'm a big fan of the series. I know it's nothing like the games that have come before, but we're here to talk about Fallout 76, aren't we?
Yes.
And basically, for those that aren't too sure what it is and how it fits in, I would love you to let us know what it is and what it's like.
Right. I'll get this out of the way. I've actually really enjoyed Fallout 76.
Good. Yeah. So, I've seen quite a bit online, people moaning about it being glitchy and there's not a lot to do, but I'm glad you have enjoyed it.
Yes, I have enjoyed it. It is buggy and it is glitchy, but if I'm honest, it's no more so than previous Bethesda games. So if you've played a Bethesda game in the past, you'll know the kind of sort of weird little glitches and what have you that you come across in these kinds of games.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few more serious bugs and what have you which have been patched out. But, yeah, it's a little bit buggy and a little bit glitchy. It's also, I've seen a lot of criticism about it. And I think that if you can reframe what Fallout 76 is, you'll have a better time with it.
Yeah.
And that is, it is a survival crafting game set in the Fallout universe, if you want to call it a universe. It's not a Fallout RPG. So if you're coming to Fallout 76 thinking it's going to be the next one in the series of Fallout games and you're going to be expecting this huge open world where you can set off and go and meet people and do quests and go and explore, etc., you're going to be disappointed because this isn't Fallout 5. It is basically the building and crafting elements from Fallout 4, where you could build in Sanctuary and things like that. It's basically that element of Fallout 4 taken out and made large into a multiplayer environment.
Okay, so with it being a multiplayer, what are you doing with your friends? I know you're building bases and stuff, but is there any threat? Is there anything that you do to protect your base, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so there are quests to do, but they're more of a vehicle, really, to get you to go out and explore and gather the junk that you find. Yeah. Because the junk is the valuable resource in the world of Fallout 76, because you need the junk to build and repair your weapons and what have you. So there are quests to follow, and there's plenty of sort of environmental detail that you'd expect. So you'll go to an area and there's lots of terminals to read, and everybody's dead. There are no human NPCs, and I've seen a lot of criticism on that. There are no human NPCs, so you're not going and meeting people. Yeah. But, there's lots of holotapes to pick up and listen to so you can find out what's been going on whilst you're in the vault, and there's a thread of story to kind of follow. But ultimately, the quests are really only there, as I say, to get you to go out and explore and gather junk and loot so that you can come back and build. Just to kind of set it in some context, so Fallout 76 is set 25 years after the bombs have fallen, whereas I think Fallout 3 had you emerging 100 years after they've fallen. So it's very close after the bombs have fallen. So thematically, I guess it makes sense that there's not really anybody about because they've probably been killed off. They have been killed off. In terms of enemies, there are ghouls and the rogue Robotron type.
Yes.
Robot enemies, the super mutants, of course, and there's a new enemy type called Scorchers, and much of the overarching thread of story is about what this scorching, what these Scorchers are. They're humanoid, they're a bit like the ghouls, but they seem to have slightly more... They seem to be in a slightly earlier stage of evolution, if you like, because obviously within Fallout, the ghouls have kind of evolved a little bit, and you have some sentient ghouls, don't you, in the later series. The Scorchers seem to be at an earlier stage, so it's almost like something has happened, some kind of plague has happened, and it's sent the remaining survivors kind of a bit doolally and a bit manic.
Yes.
And that's your main kind of enemy. I'll be honest, there's a lot of kind of combat in the game, because, you know, when you go to places, there are enemies to fight. And, you know, Fallout and Bethesda games in general aren't particularly well known for their combat. And that isn't, I'd like to say it's been improved, but it hasn't really. So if you've played a previous Fallout game, you'll know what to expect in terms of that combat. I mean, it's perfectly okay, but ultimately in a game that isn't, you know, a questing RPG, and it's more about this survival crafting building type thing, the combat does form quite a large part of it, and it's not the strongest part. So that's a bit of a criticism, I think, because it does ultimately kind of come down to a bit of a online shooter. Yeah. And it doesn't work as well as other online shooters. However, I think having said that, like I say, I have enjoyed it because some of the things that I really like about Bethesda games is this sense of exploration and, oh, what's that? You know, over there, I'm going to go walk over there, and I'm going to go into this bunker and I'm going to explore and what have you. Whilst a lot of that isn't as rewarding as you know, a full-blown RPG would be, there is still that pull there, and that's what I've been kind of getting from it whilst I've been playing.
Cool. Well, I mean, the combat, the you know, mention it like being akin to a online shooter. Are there opportunities to go and attack someone else's base, or
yes?
Oh, brilliant! Cool.
Yes. So, I mean, the PvP side of things is a little weird as well. So you have to get to level 5 before you can initiate PvP. Yeah. And you can attack another player. However, you'll do minimal damage. And PvP will only be started if the other player then attacks you. So that's kind of like Bethesda's anti-griefing measures a little bit in place there. The people who want to participate in PvP have to agree to it, basically. Yeah. There's these other things in the world. Now, the world is huge, by the way.
Oh, cool.
There's these other things in the world called workbenches, which, if you've played Fallout 4, you'll be familiar with. The Sanctuary place in Fallout 4 had a workbench where you just stored everything that you found out on your questing, you just dumped in there, and you could then use it to, you know, build and what have you. Those kinds of areas are in the game, and you can, as a player or as a group of players, you know, if you've palled up with some mates, you can go and claim a workshop. So it'll take a process to do that. There might be some enemies you need to take down to get to it, and then once you reach the workbench, you can claim it for a small number of caps, and it will take a few moments to sort of trigger over to you. There's like a flag raising. Once you've done that workbench is yours, and you can build in it. It comes equipped already with quite a lot of the resources like the wood and steel, etc. And you can start to build, I guess, like a team base, and you can, you know, build defenses and what have you. However, a workbench is an area that other players can come to. So if you've claimed it, other players might go, actually, we want that base. Right. So that it's kind of like raising a flag on the server, if you like, that you're up for PvP because you've claimed an area that can be claimed by other players. Right, so okay. That seems to be where most of the focus is on PvP. But then there's some other cooperative events that go on. Like randomly you'll get a notification that there's an event going on nearby you. And that is generally, they're not the strongest things, and certainly in the early game I'd suggest avoiding them because they burn through your ammo. But they're often little events where you can go and it'll say, oh, you need to defend this area against like a wave of enemies, and then you might have to go and do something else, like, I don't know, tap into a computer to reduce the aggression of the robots that were attacking you beforehand, and then you'll get some quest rewards at the end of it. And the rewards generally tend to be focused around, you know, stim packs or, you know, some caps, or perhaps you might get a new outfit or whatever. So it's all very different to what you might expect Fallout to be. Like I said right at the beginning, if you can kind of reframe it that it's not a Fallout game, it's a survival crafting game with a Fallout skin, I think you will have a much better time with it.
Well, I mean, you can go on godsofgeek.com and read Nicola's review there of Fallout 76. Nicola, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you, and thanks all for listening. I hope you got more of an idea what Fallout 76 actually is. Take care, bye-bye.